Chapter 3.5 Writing and Reading Intervals. Now, in building a specific interval above a given note, to start off, we think of the major scale built on that note and its key signature, which we'll get into more. Write the interval above it according to its number name, and then alter the upper note by means of an accidental, if necessary, according to its specific name. Do not alter the given note, ergo the number. So to think of these three steps a little bit simpler, what we're going to do is we're going to think of it as match the number, match it to the diatonic scale, right, of both of the notes using the root as the sort of the scale key, right? And then once you have either major or perfect interval, match the accidentals to what the interval is. So think of it in those three steps: number, diatonic notes, and accidental to achieve the desired interval. So with this one right here, write a minor sixth above G. In the key of G, first off, number, diatonic, accidental. So the number, to make it a sixth: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. G. See? G, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the G major scale, that is the E above the G is already a diatonic, naturally occurring in the scale of G, the root note. So that's a major sixth because it is naturally occurring in the major scale. Now, they said they want a minor sixth above G, only changing the top note since it's above G. Since this is major, if we go back to the chart that we mentioned earlier, to make major minor, you have to collapse it by 1/2 step. Since this is the note that we're building it on top of, we have to collapse the bottom note by 1/2 step to make it minor. And hence, look what we have. A minor, small m, 6. Minor 6. So remember, number, diatonic, accidental. What about this one? Write an augmented fourth above F. Remembering that fourths are always perfect, right? Above F. Well, only a picture like this B flat isn't there. Take the F, right? And then we're going to go, given that, we're going to think of the number. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we would put a circle on the fourth line. That's the number part. It's a fourth now because of the number, right? With just the F and the B, right? Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Except in the key of F, B would be B flat, like in the scale. So, to do that, we know that that's a fourth, but since there's B flat in the key of F, it's going to be B flat to make it a perfect fourth. Now we've matched it diatonically. Now all we have to do is now change the accidental to achieve the desired quality. An augmented fourth. If you recall, we have F and B flat now. With F and B flat, to make it augmented, we have to expand it. We're not going to change the bottom because they said build it above F. So to expand this from B flat here, we're going to need to expand it out up to B natural to augment and expand it by a 1/2 step. So lo and behold, augmented fourth is F and B, augmented fourth, or a tritone. See how that works? In writing a specific interval below a given note, write the interval below it according to its number name. Think of the major scale built on the lower note and its signature after matching the number, diatonic, and then alter the lower note only by means of an accidental, if necessary, according to its specific name. Do not alter the given note, because that would change the interval. So once again, all that is basically telling us is match the number by distance on the staff. Then the number distance, make it diatonic based off the bottom note as the scale, the major scale, right? And then once you have the diatonic notes and the correct number distance of the interval you want, then number, diatonic, accidental. Then we're going to change the accidental to make it match the given note that we want, right? So say they want a major third below C, right? So we have this. Here's C. Pretend like we just have that. Number, C, B, A. Or 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So now we have the number, and that is already a minor third. But say the bottom note is a major scale on A, B, C. That's minor, right? And we can't make it A, B, C sharp because we can't change the top note. We have to build a major interval with the note below C natural, keeping C the exact same. So we match the number 1, 2, 3. Now we need to match the diatonic scale to make it major or perfect. Since it's a third, it's going to be major. Since this is minor and we can't change the top interval, we have to make it major, we need to expand it by a half step, if you recall from the chart. So expanding this bottom note by a half step, remember expanding, going away from that note, is going to take it down to A flat. Lo and behold, major third, A flat and C. See how that works? Number, diatonic, accidental. So write a diminished fifth below D. Let's say we don't have this G already. We have a D right here. Number, diatonic, accidental. So number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we know that it's a fifth, but to match, now we have to change it into diatonic spelling, like the of the root note, like G is a scale, right? So G, A, B, C, D. This note here is now a diatonic note, meaning a note from the scale G, A, B, C, D in G major, right? So this is a perfect interval because it's a fifth and it's in the diatonic position. So we've matched the number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's already in the G major key, A, B, C, D. So it's a perfect fifth. Now, accidental. They want us to write a diminished fifth below D. So we can't change D, we have to change this. If you recall, going from perfect to diminished means collapsing one of the notes. Since they want us to write it below D, we can only alter the bottom note. If we were to collapse that note in by a half step to make it diminished, that would mean by only changing the bottom note too, we'd collapse it in by a half step, which is going to make this G sharp. So G sharp and D. And voila, we have our diminished fifth. So see how that works. Just remember, match the number to the interval, right? Match the diatonic notes to the major scale of the bottom note, right? Once it is in the the notes are the diatonic notes of the major scale based on the bottom note, then then and only then we change the accidental to match the quality that they're asking for. So once this is in diatonic, they want diminished as our example. Then we change the bottom note since they want us to build below it. And to make it a perfect interval diminished, remember, collapse it by a half step. So we collapse the bottom note in by a half step. So simple as that. Number, diatonic, accidental. To find the specific name of a given interval, one that's already given, we count the staff degrees or letter names involved to find its number name. Basically doing the same thing. Let's say we don't already know that this is a perfect fifth, right? If we were to count, we'd count the staff degrees. Start counting this bottom one as 1. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our number. Think of the lower note of the interval as the key note of the major scale. So diatonic, if the interval fits in the scale, it is either major or perfect, right? That's what we want to get it into, the diatonic notes. So this, we already know it's a fifth away, so we know it's a fifth. And if this is the key of G, the scale, it fits into the scale, so it must be perfect because it's a fifth. And if the interval is larger or smaller than the scale interval, it is either minor, diminished, or augmented according to its size. So knowing that a perfect fifth can only be perfect, diminished, or augmented in the scale, the original notes, then we already know that since it's in the scale, it must be perfect. G, A, B, C, D. So, hence, we would name this interval a perfect fifth. I hope that makes sense. And remember, for reference, to build a scale off any note, you'd use a starting note and then go whole, whole, half, first tetrachord, and then whole, 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 half. That will give you a major scale off any note, right? And that's what you want to use the basis of when you're forming the diatonic intervals. In the second step of creating an interval or naming an interval. Remember, naming an interval or building an interval, it's still going to go in that order. The number first, the distance, 1, 2, 3, third, right? And then it will go diatonic. We'll ask ourselves, using the bottom note as the key, are these notes both in the diatonic scale of the bottom note? This is A, B, C. It's if this were A major, it would be C sharp, right? But since it's C natural, right here, C natural, it's taking it down from a third, major third, collapsing it in a half step. So if you remember, that makes it a minor third. And then, see, we wouldn't add any accidentals. Minor third. Just working with these as well as sort of other resources just to practice intervals is really the only way to get much better at creating them as well as naming intervals, in addition to doing exercises, activities that will strengthen your abilities with intervals will be very beneficial. Intervals take time to get good with, and it also helps building intervals and recognizing them by following these steps, as well as hearing the difference between minor and major, diminished and perfect, minor and major, and so on. So keep practicing with these and you will get better.